and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Sylvester. Jokes. I'm Josh.
Just the two of us again. Sly is getting his Johnson & Johnson vaccine jab so that he can go to Belgium without spending a lot of money on PCR tests and all of that nature. He also didn't watch the card, so Sly had a rough weekend. Sly had a very rough weekend. He had a tough Friday. Saturday, I don't think, was much fun for him at all. And he didn't even leave the house.
How come? Actually, sorry, you said he gets the jabs today, so it's not symptoms from that or anything.
No. I think he got quite drunk, and he's not used to being drunk in any way, shape, or form. And he was drunk on champagne and a whole variety of other things till stupid o'clock in the morning. So a lot of his Saturday was throwing up and not watching the fight. So he will be back for the pick show ahead of the British invasion of Texas that is occurring on UFC Fight Night this coming weekend. But we got to talk about all the news and all the events that have happened over the last weekend and week or so in MMA and UFC. And we had, as I hit my table, we had the finale of The Ultimate Fighter, headlined, of course, by the striking extravaganza that was Edson Barbosa against Giga Chikadze. Struggling to say that one today. Cracking fight, great card, a few other things to talk about, lots to cover. And we do have to start, unfortunately, so we can get it out of the way. And Josh, this is going to break your heart, but
I'll take a minute. Yeah,
we gotta discuss the boxing because Sunday nights, which made it very difficult for me to watch, and Monday a real challenge.
So I'm going to time you. See if you can keep it under 2 minutes. Jake
Paul. The whole card actually turned out to not be too bad. Some really good fights. Montana Love looking very good against Berichick. You had Daniel Dubois making his US debut and made very short work of his opponent. 3 knockdowns in the first round before sealing the first round knockout.
Who was his opponent?
Oh, God, it was
if we're going to talk about the real fights, I'll talk about these a little bit. No, I mean, like, I knew nothing about the guy. Like, was he just pretty much like a can?
Just a can to make exactly the same as Tommy Fury's fight. It was just to give the guys a US debut. The betting odds were just ridiculous. I think Dubois was like minus 3,000. So, I mean, it wasn't a fight, and it wasn't a fight. Tommy Fury actually struggled against a guy that usually fights at lightweight and used to be an MMA fighter. He's had like one professional boxing match. He still won, but it wasn't the dominant performance that you were expecting, which has kind of certainly derailed his hype, at least in kind of launching him as a real boxer, but has not damaged his hype in terms of maybe fighting Jake Paul. And we also had a female unification bout as well between the WBO, IBO, and I think WBA champ Serrano. I can't remember the name of the lady that she fought, but she made quick work of her, and she's now on something like a 60 or 26 fight win streak. Crazy, absolutely crazy talents. So one credit you got to give, all of these guys have said they got their biggest paycheck on this card. So props where props is due. Nice to see some young, talented boxers getting a good payday, a couple making their US debut, and a very inspiring female unified champion getting a platform to show what she can do. Now let's talk about the main event. We live in the darkest timeline, Josh.
Don't draw me into this.
We live in the darkest timeline. I only made a community reference, so I wanted to include you in that community reference. But it's true, man. If COVID wasn't enough to convince you, this is. Jake Paul can kind of box, kind of. He actually was pretty good. He threw combinations. He moved really well on the back foot. Tyron was as gun-shy in boxing as he is in the last 4 fights of his MMA career. The only difference is instead of moving and going back to the cage and not throwing, this time Tyron walked forward and didn't throw. So it was an interesting change of dynamic. He did catch Jake Paul a few times, knocked him into the ropes and wobbled him in round 4, but again, wasn't able to go in and capitalize and take advantage and smell blood in the water. Fair play to Jake. He recovered well. He won the remainder of the rounds. He probably won it 6 rounds to 2. He boxed well for his level. he's clearly not a real boxer, but Tyron was very much trying and couldn't win. We live in a world where the UFC champion of 2 years ago just lost to Jake Paul. And now is going in boxing.
And if my hands were as fucked up as Tyron Woodley's, I wouldn't be doing any of this shit.
Yeah, it's still a fight though. It's still a fight. Tyron Woodley now has to get I love Jake Paul tattooed on his inner thigh, which apparently he's willing to do to try and get a rematch. Which is, it's very strange.
His hands will probably feel better by then.
I'll say this, man. You could really notice like the difference between like comfortability. Like we've talked about this a lot, sort of off camera, and the differences. Obviously, us sort of doing some boxing and then watching a lot of MMA. And you just in MMA, you're not having the same understanding of certain head movement positions that you just don't do in MMA because you can get kicked in the fucking head. But this is all the stuff that Jake has learned from a fundamental point. So there was just little mistakes, just things that Tyron couldn't do to capitalize, movements that Jake had to get out of the way. It wasn't a great look for MMA. And to be honest, it really just shows that, like, we've seen this a little bit with Robbie Lawler recently. When you get to a certain age and you just lose that mental willingness to throw, it doesn't matter who you're fighting. It's really hard to get it back. And I know, obviously, against Vicente Luque, Tyron Woodley kind of went out too aggressive, but it still shows that he doesn't have a comfortability with it. It was just, he goes from two ends of the extreme, really. And you don't get that back.
Look, I haven't seen the fight. I know what happened. I haven't seen the fight. I could care less, to be honest. But what I have seen of Tyron Woodley is a guy who sometimes his pride hurts more than his hands. But more often than not, his hands hurt more than his pride. And I don't know why the fuck he's even doing this shit. Well, I guess he got paid. And if he wants a rematch, I'm hoping it isn't pride. I'm hoping he just thinks he can get double bubble. So fair enough.
He wasn't
way over 2 minutes on this, by the way.
He wasn't outclassed. It was still a close fight. But Jake Paul was able to, little things like, you could tell Jake understood how to score points in a 3-minute round. Whereas Tyron, there was so much time he spent just looking for the perfect opening. And all this while, Jake's landing little things here and there. And then when it got to the last minute of each round and Tyron tried to be aggressive, Jake Paul just stayed away from him. So he's like, oh, I've got the round in the bag. I don't need to do anything stupid. And you could just it just felt like every round went by. It just felt like Woodley was just seeing this fight just like slip away from him without really understanding how quickly it was happening. So I think what I mean by that is that the rules of boxing, the nature of boxing, the distance, all this kind of stuff, where you're safe, where you're not safe, Tyron's just not used to it. And it showed that Jake at the level he is was able to take advantage of that, which is a crazy thought, man. And maybe he fights Tommy Fury. I don't know how long this goes. If he fights,
2021's a gas year. It's the gas leak year. It's season 4.
I don't know. I think if he fights any level of boxer that's his size, that's been doing it for like more than 4 or 5 years, I think he probably gets schooled. I really do. I think Tommy Fury's probably in that category. If I was Jake, I'd much rather take the fucking Tyron Woodley rematch. At least you've been in there and been like, okay, I know what this guy can and can't do. But we'll see, man. It was not what I wanted to watch in the early hours of Monday morning, but it is what it is. But we now get to move on to an excellent card. I had a lot of fun watching this card, top to bottom.
It's a great card.
A really entertaining fight, some great stories, some moments that definitely made me cheer, and some moments that surprised me. Giga Chikadze is the real fucking deal, man. This wasn't a close fight.
I gotta be honest, like I felt like round 1, he didn't come out as aggressive as I thought he was necessarily, but I really liked what he did. But it's almost as if he was wary of Edson Barbosa being able to read too many like patterns of movement, and kind of get his behavior down, because everything was like a single power shot that landed. Fair play. They pretty much all of them landed. All of them coming from different positions, little to no setup. But I don't think that was the game plan from the way Rafael Cordeiro was telling him to start using the double jab and really start closing the distance more and start throwing in combinations. So it was very effective in the first round. Second round, I thought Barbosa started to kind of like close the gap a little bit and make it more of a fight. And then, sweet Jesus, round 3, Giga Chikadze showed aggression, bratience, an overall technically sound MMA kind of mindset. I loved the way he chased the Bravo choke, and then when it wasn't there, back to the feet, back to the floor. Just beautiful. This guy is an MMA fighter.
I couldn't believe those seconds where you thought he was going to land an anaconda. You were like, is he really going to take Barbosa out with the one submission that Barbosa has on his record in the UFC? Are you fucking kidding me? Didn't need to. He stayed patient, changed positions, like you say. And there was me on the pick show saying that he might have the better kicks, but Barbosa's got the better hands. He fucking drops him with the hands.
Well, Barbosa was definitely the faster, sharper boxer. But, other than round 2, he didn't really face Chikadze.
He kept his distance so well. He managed his distance brilliantly. You can tell he's just so comfortable with that. His kick selection, the accuracy he's got, he's going to be a real problem for a lot of people.
Well, that's it. I mean, you picked up on it. When you have all of the advantages keeping the fight at kicking distance, it means the guy's really got to be on his bike staying all the way out or constantly moving and coming all the way in, all the way out, which is exhausting. It's very hard for good people to just close the gap and stay there, particularly when you're as finely tuned. Great reactions, great instincts, great technique. You would not want to just sort of rush in on Chikadze without really thinking about what the fuck you're doing. So, I mean, shit, the guy's kind of scary. And have they updated the rankings, actually? Be interesting to see if he's cracking the top 5 now.
Well, it is Tuesday today, and you have a computer in front of you. So...
yeah, who needs Sly, eh?
He'll be back to defeat us in picks.
Yeah, he probably will. Actually, I need a text to make sure he's all right. I haven't seen him in a little while now. Just want to make sure you haven't like Dennis Nielsen'd him or anything.
He's still alive. It's only a coincidence that Mia happened to leave just as he came back.
They haven't updated it. It doesn't look like. They definitely haven't updated it. It's got Chikadze at 10, Barbosa at 9.
It's 10 in the morning in Vegas.
Yeah. I'll check again before the end of the show. What do you think of the Holloway call out?
I think it's an excellent call out. He's not fighting at the moment. He's not going to get it, but I mean, shoot for the stars.
Holloway's booked against Yair, but
no, that got pushed back. That got cancelled because Holloway got injured. They didn't rebook it.
I thought it had been rebooked.
I don't think it's been rebooked. I mean, have a check.
Up like November, December time.
You might be right. I didn't think they'd rebook it, to be honest, because I thought Max's smartest move would just be to wait until the title fight happens in September.
It's being rescheduled. I don't know why I didn't check Tapology first.
I don't know why Max takes that fight.
Anyway, but if it is rebooked, as I think it is for the end of the year, let's be honest, Yair Rodriguez is at his most volatile before a fight in terms of will he or won't he actually fucking fight. So if Giga Chikadze wants to be a stand-in for that fight, I think that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I could get behind that. But also, I don't think he's there yet. Because in all fairness, like Barbosa was ranked 9th in featherweights. I don't know if I think he still needs to fight that top 6 mix of guys. Like, I think the fight that I would like to see would be someone like the Zombie.
Yeah, well, that's number 4. That's still looking at a top 5 opponent there. But
I'm not
again,
saying not top 5. I'm just saying not fucking Max.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's
I
respect it because
Arnold Allen would have been a good shout.
Arnold Allen. But again, I respect it. Like, he wanted to be a backup for the title fight in September. So he's putting himself, he's calling out, he's shooting here, thinking that it might end up getting him here, but not wanting to just settle for this, basically. So, and I understand that. I don't think he deserves a Max fight. Max is the champ.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a delay, so I keep stepping on your toes.
Sorry, I keep doing the same.
No, I've noticed this for a while since we're having to record this way. I have quite a bad lag on my end. And then I've kind of gotten pretty good at kind of timing it. But then there's definitely weeks where I'm just like halfway through the first sentence and I can tell, like, you were Slayer, like, you just fucking talked over me again, motherfucker. I really apologize. I'm really getting a lot better at it. But today I'm way too hungover. I'm fucking up a treat.
Don't worry. I was just interjecting there. Don't worry.
I was just going to say, what I do love about Giga is when he's making these plans, he's plotting and scheming, there's no doubt in him. Like, his English might not be perfect, but it doesn't fucking matter. I understand everything he's saying. I understand exactly what he means because the guy just says everything with utter confidence. And I think, to be honest, actually quite a lot of respect for his opponents, respect for the game. I agree with you. I don't think on paper he is ready for a Holloway by any means, but I think he is a very interesting challenge just because of how powerful his skill set is. And frankly, the fact that he's not as one-dimensional as people assumed he was coming in with his karate and kickboxing background.
Just to interject, sorry, it's not so much that I think he's not ready for a Max fight. He may very well be an elite competitor. I just don't think that you can beat the number 9 guy and then just jump into fighting that top 2 or 3. You see what I mean? Like, I'd accept top 5. I just think you need that extra fight to get through. And I know it's Barbosa. But Barbosa's 35 now. He's dangerous, but I don't think he's necessarily the same Barbosa that fought like Paul Felder the first time.
And the second time. I think he might have won that fight, to be honest. The second one.
I think he did win that
close.
Fight.
So close. Yeah, Barbosa is definitely not where he was. And the crazy thing is, I don't think this guy ever really hit his ceiling. I just think the stars never truly aligned for him. But this guy was savvy beyond his years. So as his athleticism has dipped, it's not like he's been able to pick up a shit ton of extra kind of experience, patience, savvy. He always kind of had that. And, unfortunately, he's almost certainly a fighter on the decline. I don't see him having a Mike Bisping moment, but I will always be excited to see this guy fight. I love when he headlines. And this is his 3rd headliner, right? Which is almost criminal given how long he's been in the UFC. But, fuck it. The guy does a lot of pay-per-views. So he's an exciting guy.
He's a great fighter, and it's a shame. And like you said, I mean, his best performances are just incredible to watch. You think, obviously, the Terry Etim knockout comes to mind, but also you think about the way he just dismantled Dan Hooker. I mean, just dismantled him. Yep. Dan Hooker's a really good fighter, and he made him look very ordinary. I mean, just broke him. By the time that fight was over, Dan Hooker wasn't knocked out. He was broken.
Not mentally, but physically.
Absolutely.
Dan Hooker still complained about the stoppage, I believe. That's just Dan Hooker.
Dan Hooker's a crazy person. He's fighting on 267 or 266? Or is it 268? I mean,
it's hard to say because it didn't get confirmed too long ago.
We'll get to it in the news. For now, should we do the Ultimate Fighter fights in one second?
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Right. We have the 2 Ultimate Fighters, Brian Battle and Ricky Tercios. Also winning in his appearance, although losing in the semi-finals, Andre Petrosky got past Michael Gilmore. And let's break this down one by one. Gabriel Urbina did a lot better than I thought he would. Came in short notice, really troubled Battle. I mean, really troubled him.
Yeah, no, he looks a lot better in the stand-up than I thought he would. TUF coming in on short notice. TUF having lost the semi-finals, but fucking Ryan Hall. That's how he got to the. Well, it's not exactly how he got to, but that's a similar situation for him to get into the TUF finale, and he fucking came away with the whole shebang. But man, Brian Battle, pretty tough. I don't know, how much do you really want to break this one down? Because I know like neither of us are really too impressed with the middleweights this year.
I kept thinking this watching the fight. I don't know how far any of these middleweights go. We'll get to the Andre Prochowski fight, who, he's...
let's just tie it in now, because all I really want to say is that I feel like Petrosky and Battle will be exciting, serviceable fighters. I think they're going to win a couple of UFC fights here and there. But, they just, at best, I think they're going to be challenging fights for other fighters kind of on their way up. They're not the kind of guys that they're going to crack the rankings.
No, and I think Petrosky, Andre probably has the best wrestling out of the two guys that won and are going to be in the UFC. But he's 31. He gets tired very quickly. He's very limited, very easy to hit. Brian Battle's young. I think that's the best advantage he's got, is that he's young. But equally, I just don't know how much natural talent is there. I think the guy seems like a really great dude. He's got a lot of talent. He could certainly develop. I'm just not sure how much it's going to happen. And the one middleweight I thought that was really going to kind of look good in the UFC was Tressian Gore. And he's probably still going to get his UFC shot, but obviously he got injured and wasn't able to compete in that TUF finale. But yeah, I didn't think the level was particularly high for the middleweights. And if you compare it to the fights that the bantamweights had, not just in this finale, but just throughout the house, I just thought it was a different level. I did think that in the fight between Brady and Ricky, they're certainly not the cleanest of strikers, but there's just the level of activity, the scrambles, the submission attempts, the striking on the ground, the reversal of positions, the shit that they kicked out of each other. That was as good of a fight as I could have hoped for.
Well, Ricky's the kind of guy you could never count out of a fight, because he can connect. He can connect in terms of technique and accuracy, but also he seems to have a little bit of oomph for a 35er. And he has very aggressive jiu-jitsu off his back. He understands how to create frames, get butterfly guard, and start landing elbows as well. He's the kind of guy that is always going to have a shot, and he's going to be a nightmare for anyone. If he ever actually ties it together in a very tight technical package, he could certainly be a threat. Brady Highstand, very, very young. And actually, I think a lot of potential. I got to be honest. I could talk about a bunch of the fucking bantamweights. I'm too hungover to be remembering everyone's name right now. I think this was a good season for the bantamweights. I think some of these guys are going to stick around. At least I hope they do. I think there's a lot of exciting fighters there. Definitely feel good for Ricky, though. Completely different breed. Weird guy. I fucking love him, though.
Very entertaining, though. It has to be said, though. Brian Battle might have the worst cage name of all time. Pooh Bear.
There's always Frank Trigg, isn't there? Like
okay,
Twinkle Toes is always just like, and Lyle, oh man, the guy that started like sick jitsu in Spokane, where Brady fights out of. Beer Bomb, Lyle Beer Bomb, Fancy Pants. There are a lot of bad ones.
Okay, you can add Pooh Bear to the mix of ones that we're going to have in the UFC, because it's pretty bad. And then, fuck me, Andre and Ricky give the cringiest fucking post-fight speeches. First, you have Ricky, does the whole, I want to send a message to all the people watching and to the children. Peace on earth. I was like, oh my God. Just say that you're delighted to win. Brady was a tough guy. But then worse than that, even worse than that, was Andre. He did not look that impressive in his win. He grinded it out. He got it done. but jumps on the mic and says, and I'm not going to say it as animated as he did, but he says, the next guy I fight might as well be called Jeff Bezos because he's going into space. Woo-hoo. And then when Paul Felder asked him who he wants to fight, who he wants to send into space, he went, I don't know.
And it's very stupid. It's a double-edged sword. You've just left it wide open now. So when the next guy beats you, he's like, he might as well call me Jeff Bezos because I have all the wealth. I took all the money. Fuck that idiot.
That really works if Andre ever misses weight going down to welterweight.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, he's a fucking jacked guy, but it's like a lot of muscle for the frame. I wonder if the guy would, maybe he just has quite like a responsive body and he can kind of put the muscle mass on and kind of lose it with the cardio. If cardio means that he naturally starts getting down to 170, given that this guy even is a self-confessed 7-minute fighter, that wouldn't be a bad thing. You know, it's not like the way we preach. We just beg that Kelvin Gastelum gets a fucking nutritionist and gets his shit together and moves down to 170. This is one where you're like, well, Jesus Christ, now you got 2 reasons to run. Fuck me.
I will interject on this. I know this is my first Ultimate Fighter kind of watching. My sort of assumption to a certain extent is that a lot of guys, if they're having to cut weight in close proximity while being at the house, might be in a weight class above what they would really be able to fight at, so that they're not draining themselves in the house, but with the full knowledge of going down. And maybe that's the case with Andre. Like the fact that he made weight, no issues, being in the house, all that kind of stuff, did that twice in the space of 6 weeks. I think he's probably already in his mind that he was going to go down to welterweight. I wouldn't be surprised if the same is true for Gabriel Urbina if he gets a shot. And I could even see Ricky Tercios. Like, that's one of the things about this. These bantamweights, as we say, were really exciting, but we've got a lot of bantamweights right now. What division could use an injection of 4 or 5 unranked new young guys to spice things up and add to a division that already has a pretty good top, the top 10 is really good at flyweight now. Top 15 is really getting established, but there's like 3-4 fighters outside of that. These guys could inject things, add a little bit of extra life to it, and really kick that division off with the new champ.
Oh, for sure, man. Like you hit the nail on the head. A lot of fighters on the Ultimate Fighter are going up a weight class. I mean, Diego Sanchez won at middleweight, fought at lightweight and welterweight and featherweight. Tony Ferguson went at welterweight, fought at lightweight. A lot of them do it. You do also get a lot of guys that are just literally cutting the weight that often. And to be honest, Petrosky looks huge to me at 185. I know he's not the biggest middleweight, but he's not small for the division. I think this guy can bounce between. I think this guy could be a tweener. And given that I honestly think that he's got little to no chance of ever making any kind of win streak in the UFC, any significant kind of win streak, I think it's good to see him bounce around between divisions. Kind of like a poor man's James Krause. I'm not shitting on James Krause at all, but like that's a guy that can win fights at 55, 70, and 85. He is the king of division cruisers, but like that's the kind of outlay I sort of see. This guy taking exciting fights at 70, exciting fights at 85, being a challenge for some people, particularly in the first round, putting together a few exciting fights, and ultimately just hopefully getting paid his worth. That's all I really want for everyone that kind of puts all this fucking effort in. And it's so easy to try and shit on people that go into the Ultimate Fighter house, but for the most part, they're not really getting paid for these fights. Really what they're getting is free training, room and board. These people have commitment beyond commitment. It's insane what they're going through to chase that dream. And I just want all of them to get paid what they're worth. And I think we'll see a lot of these bantamweights on UFC contracts. And to be honest, just because it's kind of the tradition of the Ultimate Fighter, we'll probably see a couple of these middleweights get at least another shot.
Tressian Gore's definitely getting a chance because he got injured. And to be honest, I think would have won it. But you were talking about tweeners. And that is a beautiful segue back onto the established UFC fighters. And man, touching on our picks, we kind of both were a bit worried about this one for Kevin Lee, but we felt that he should be the better fighter in terms of ability than D-Rod. But here's the thing, D-Rod pieced him up really easily. I mean, the first round was a bit tricky, but once he stuffed the takedowns and he knew how to get back up, he was just so much better than Kevin Lee. It looked like, to be honest, it's like as soon as Kevin Lee he wasn't really able to manage the striking, dealing with the height differential and the size differential. And I think D-Rod was just that size too big, where the things that he could do to take a guy down at 55 just aren't working right now. On
that's
double reconstructed knees.
Man, I can't say any better than Mike Bisping did in the fight in the second round when Kevin Lee logs up that double leg. And Bisping's like, this is a crucial moment. Like, he has to secure this takedown. I mean, he got it, but I think it took everything out of him. And the fact is that when you're fighting a guy like D-Rod, who kind of just keeps pressing forward, keeps hitting you, and hits just a little bit too hard, just a little bit harder than you thought he was going to be hitting you. It's exhausting.
Effortless power as well. He's not winding up. It's not that it's that like one punch. He's got that knockout power, but it's just this consistent, just flowing shots that just land heavier than they look like they should.
Yeah, he throws like Strickland almost. Not quite as crisply or as athletically, but it looks like he's just kind of throwing for volume. And then you look at the other guy's reaction and you're like, nah, this dude's got bricks for hands. Kevin Lee does not, it's not that he doesn't belong at 170, but he was fighting for an interim title at 55. They're never going to do a 65 division in his lifetime in the UFC. The more I think about it, I think PFL, if they see enough guys, enough of those tweeners between the welter and lightweight divisions coming up to the end of their contracts, I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a one-off tournament. What do they call it in the official MMA weight class? I think it's super lightweight 165.
Yeah.
I know King of the Cage do it, but they don't call it super lightweight. They call it junior welterweight, maybe.
Well, if you're going on boxing classifications, there's an actual interest.
Oh, no. They actually have in the unified MMA rules, they actually have the weight classes laid out. So there 65 exists as an official MMA weight class. So does 175, but no one uses it.
Okay.
Basically.
No, but what I mean is the nameage. So if you look at boxing, for example, in the lower weight classes, two of the main world championship organizations call it super junior super featherweight, and the other ones call it junior lightweight. So you get this like literal split in opinion. It only happens with certain weight classes though, because I think once you get to like welterweight and above, I think it's just the super of the next one, and so you get to cruiserweight. But
if he's going to do anything at 170, he's going to. And I don't think the guy has bad cardio, but the guy is going to have to take it to another level. He has a very good all-round skill set. He's a really tough guy. I love watching this guy fight. But, unfortunately, he sits in between two weight classes. And if he wants to stay at 170, it's not about putting on more muscle and more weight for him. It's about really having like the energy to fight 6 rounds instead of 5 rounds, 4 rounds instead of 3 rounds. He needs to be putting it on, guys. And
I think there's another issue with him as well. I don't think he does well in fights where he can't play the bully. If he can't ragdoll people, take them down, bully them, beat them up, he doesn't respond well. And I think it happened with RDA. It happened with Ali Akinta. I know he got tired in those fights as well, but I think there was just there was a
that Ali Akinta one was close. I mean, I thought it was close anyway. I know what you mean. Thing is, though, RDA, D-Rods, obviously getting choked out by Charlie Olives, a Tony Ferguson fight when he had that insane staff. I didn't think he looked that bad in this one. I think these guys are killers. I think he's lost to some really good guys. And
I know what you're saying.
Quinta.
He was meant to fight Sean Brady. How do you think Sean Brady would have worked out for him on Saturday?
Oh, obviously, it'd be very easy to just kind of off of what I've just said. So there may be like someone that isn't going to hit as hard and is going to have a more wrestle-friendly approach would be better on paper for Kevin Lee. Sean Brady is scary. He is flying under the radar, even with everyone kind of being like, no. I recognize Sean Brady. I hype up Sean Brady. Relative to his actual talent and strength, this guy is still flying under the radar somewhat. I really think he's going to be a scary fucking guy at some point. They're gonna let him crack the rankings, and I think he's gonna show some people that he's like a top 5 fighter. I think Sean Brady is ridiculously strong and just has such a smothering top game. His top control is ridiculous. It wouldn't have gone well. It wouldn't have gone well. This is my point. Yeah.
I don't think his style works for welterweight. I don't think he's tall enough. I don't think he's big enough. I think it's a wrestle-heavy division. I think he'd get slaughtered by a lot of people. I think 55 is his division, but something's going wrong here because when he had the Gillespie fight and he was with TriStar and Faraz was his guy 100%. He was committed all the way to that gym. He looked fucking sensational and he had no issue hitting the scales. I think it's other stuff that goes on with his life. And he's kind of convinced himself that he's one of, and listen, he might be a tweener, but I think what we're realizing is if you are a tweener, the better decision is to healthily reduce your mass to be able to get down to the lower weight class than the above, because otherwise you're just going to come up against that guy it's just a case of being too big.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're a guy like Masvidal and at that extra weight class, you just fill out and you develop a power and a precision and you have a speed that maybe you didn't have in the lower weight class.
You need to be a specialist. You know, Pettis did well for a little bit because he hits hard. Masvidal does well because he is one of the few true specialists in violence, in patient, educated violence. Who else has done well? RDA came up, a great specialist, but also, you know, a real workhorse, got a real engine on him. So just from volume and submission threats, the guy did well for a little bit. Cerrone, fantastic specialist as a striker, came up, did well for a little bit. Obviously, the original BJ Penn, fantastic specialist, came up, surprised Matt Hughes. But yeah, you need to be good enough at one thing that you can truly get lucky in a fight, or you've got to fucking find another level in terms of the cardio, because it's not good going up that 15-pound gap. It's a big gap.
He's not the right body size for welterweight. That's what I think when I look at Kevin Lee, not for what he's trying to do. As for D-Rod, man, give the guy a ranking, dude.
Yeah.
He's looking good. He's really good. He's really likable. I rewatched that clip of when his coaches were in the corner with him with the Mike Perry fight. They're telling him to remember when we were at the ranch and we were doing mushrooms and you were throwing that spinning heel kick. I want that. I want that, D-Rod. And it's interspliced with him being interviewed about it afterwards. And it's brilliant because he's asked about this and he kind of pauses for a while, thinks like, am I meant to talk about this? And then goes, man, I'm just going to be real with you. So yeah, we were taking mushrooms and man, I was doing this like crazy spinning karate shit, man. I was just flowing. So I didn't even end up throwing it, but who knows? Maybe the mushroom kick comes next fight. And I looked at it, I was just like, man, you're the dude. Such a chill man.
It was Joe Schilling, isn't it? Yeah, Joe Schilling, the one talking about the mushrooms. I love Joe Schilling. You seen the video of him knocking that dude out in the bar?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I haven't seen it. I don't want to have
the guy's suing him. The guy's suing the bar. After it happened, the bar came out in like kind of like, I think the bar officially and also like employees of the bar were all like, yeah, that guy was a fucking dickhead. He was drunk. He was being racist. I know the video looks bad, but fuck that guy. And I honestly feel like no one really went, did Joe Schilling go too far? Our cage fight is out of control. So many people just seem to be like, this dude's not worth it. No one's dying on this hill for that prick. Fuck that guy. And it's not the first time he's been knocked out in a bar and sued the bar for it either. So
okay. So he might just be one of those guys. He just goes in, he tries to cause trouble until somebody hits him, and then he sues.
Yeah. Deep down at heart, he must be an Englishman.
Man, anybody who sues that much has got to be an American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The litigious nature is the American side of him. The gobby little pussy side of him. That feels very English.
And they've united.
Yeah.
Okay, so D-Rod's a dude. A little funny story just end on D-Rod. Apparently, so he was in prison once, or in jail or whatever. And he obviously knows a lot of guys from certain parts. And Kevin Lee was getting messages from people in prison, like really genuine messages being like, no, dude, I served some time with that guy. You don't want to fuck with him. You don't want none of that. Trust me. Which I thought was quite funny. Like, that's a way to demoralize somebody. Like, people that knew him from like lockup are like, no, that's not the guy you want to fuck with. Like, as a friend, like as a Samaritan here.
Yeah, that there is a certain realness to D-Rod. Man, I hope that fucking guy gets paid what he's worth too, you know. I know he's not right now.
Well, as we segue across to the last fight on the main card, this is a guy who, it doesn't matter what the UFC pay him. Do you know why? Because when he wins, he gets a bonus. He's clocking that 50K money every single time. Second win by submission in a row against a guy that we thought was going to slaughter him. I mean, I think he was the biggest underdog on the card.
Yeah, man. I mean, I literally described this as a mismatch. And let's be real, okay? Up until the nut shot, it very much fucking looked that way.
Yeah.
I must say, it wasn't a deliberate foul. I'm not throwing any shade or any aspersions, and I'm not taking anything away from the win. What a fantastic comeback win. But until that nut shot, our man was on the way to the morgue.
Sometimes you need a nut shot, man. Listen, I was terrified.
Best nut shot of his career.
I was terrified for GM3 because when he was just moving forward and trying to blitz and close distance with the head just up, chin not moving, I was just like, oh, buddy, I've been there. I did that against Josh. I almost got knocked out. Not the way to go, mate. And he got away with it. But we kind of touched on this. Like, it wasn't clean. It wasn't technical. It wasn't pretty. But, you know, Bisping did a good job of, you know, saying this on the commentary. He couldn't let this be a technical fight. He was going to get destroyed. He had to just get in there, have it be a little dirty, try and take an approach of if he lands one on you, land one back and wait for those moments and then get it to the ground. And I mean, he's so good on the ground. If he can get you there, he's fucking hard to stop. I mean, you want to talk about a specialist. I don't know if he's quite in that category, but 24, 25 wins by submission. It's crazy. The guy
this guy is a specialist. This guy is very much a specialist. And I'm not saying he's one-dimensional. The guy is tough. The guy does not throw well. And I don't understand what the fuck happened in the Chimaev fight, having seen this one now. But look, Mahmoud was having his way with him, all but had him knocked out. After the nut shot, GM3 is able to stun him. Not just once, but multiple times. They got into a fucking dogfight there. And GM3 did what he had to do to get back into that fight. And once he had, rocked Mahmoud a couple of times, he was able to bring it back to an MMA fight. And frankly, Muradov is also something of a specialist. And he is way, way happier on the feet. As soon as he went down, you knew the man's drowning. It was great comeback win.
I think the nut shot may have had an effect on this, but I think Muradov got a little beat up. I think shots were landing. He was under pressure. A striker, the way that he likes to fight is he likes to have, it's a little like Ryan Hall. He likes to have, not Uriah Hall, sorry. He likes to have that space and time and distance to build things up and set everything up and work what he wants to work. And Meshad didn't give him that space. And when he's still there in round two, and all of a sudden you've been moving backwards and the shot lands here and a shot lands here and you land something good and it lands, but then he comes forward anyway. You get a bit demoralized. You feel a bit out of breath and beaten up. And I think it just wore him down in the end. Obviously, once it was on the ground, it was Meerschaert's to lose, but it was the fact that he got him there. You know, that takedown was not did not face a lot of resistance by the time he pulled it.
No, he had rocked him a few times. He had leveled the playing field, is the best way I could sort of think of it. Man, all I got stuck in my head now is Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall, Ryan Hall, Uriah Hall.
Uriah Hall.
Limited wrestling, but maybe the perfect fighter.
Oh, mate. What we need, you've seen Dragon Ball Z, yeah?
A little bit. No, talk to me about Naruto, bro. Naruto is way better.
Naruto is excellent, but there's a whole thing in Dragon Ball Z where basically the characters learn fusion. So they're basically fucked because they're up against an enemy that's way better than them. But the kids are taught that if they do this stupid little dance while like connected, they can fuse into one person. So the kids, Gohan and Trunks become Gotenks. And then Vegeta and Goku do this and they become, what's it called? Theirs is really bad.
Worse than Benefer?
I can't even remember what it is, but it doesn't sound like it's I think it's like Vegetu or Gokita. It's bad. I can't remember what it is. It sounds terrible. I haven't watched Dragon Ball Z in a while. I haven't watched that saga in a while. Naruto is excellent, although I always get... I'm
rewatching it right now. I mean, not right now, but you know what I mean, generally.
So I'm up into the big war in Shippuden. Madara Uchiha, the real Madara Uchiha, has just appeared. And he's fucking shit up. And he just dropped like 2 fucking giant boulders down on the earth. And the old rock guy, I haven't seen it in fucking ages, but this is where I was up to. The old like person who looks after like the rock people puts all his energy into stopping this one fucking boulder. And then you see Madara Uchiha standing on the top and he's like, very good old man, but tell me, how will you ever stop the second one? And he looks up and there's just another one coming straight down. And like, it's at that moment that it had finished. That was where it caught up to in terms of like the Japanese one. And then it's not a show that I can do weekly, man. There's not enough development. I just decided to leave it for ages until it was all out. And then I forgot.
It's good to binge. It's good to binge. I'm rewatching it. I'm early doors. I'm at the tuning exam, which is actually some of my favorite Naruto.
Oh, that's great. The tuning exam is excellent with Orochimaru and Gaara.
All right, bro. We're gonna have to take a quick ad break.
Let's move on to the prelims because, man, you know, sometimes it feels really good to be wrong. Not that any fan of ADC is going to say that, but
the last fight, GM3, that felt good when we were wrong about that.
And I felt pretty happy to be wrong about Al Hassan against ADC. I like ADC, but Jesus Christ, that knockout was something fucking spectacular and almost ironic.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, and almost ironic because it was the same kind of kick that landed for the same kind of reason that ADC knocked out Joaquin Buckley. The symmetry is almost beautiful. And then he gets on the mic afterwards and he's talking about how his son said to him, Dad, it's time for you to stop losing now. And he's changed his whole camp and he had this whole fear, his whole career about, he was so preoccupied about lasting the 15 minutes and it's really held him back in his UFC days. You know, 3 in a row, he was on the verge of being cut, all this kind of stuff. And he's now at middleweight and all of it just, I looked at it and thought, yeah, this is a whole new start for you, man. I think you could do really, really well at middleweight if you're not killing yourself and you've still got that kind of power and explosivity and you can fight for 15 minutes. ADC will be back, I hope.
Yeah. How did he land that though? Why did ADC dip into it? Why did ADC look at him and go, there's no way this dude would ever throw a kick? That's just the right hook coming. Duck that. ADC is so much better than that. ADC is good. This was not.
Yeah. Do you think he got a little bit over, like, the guy's just so fucking jacked, maybe, that for that first kind of like opening minute, he's just trying to slip and stay safe and just get us and burn some steam out of the guy?
I think he felt the same way that dude that got head kick KO'd by Dan Kelly back in the day felt. Like, this dude's not that agile. He's quite short. There's no way I'm getting head kicked. No, right off the bat. I think maybe there was a little bit of complacency or even arrogance there. And let's be honest, like it wasn't a bad head kick. It was a nice head kick, but it wasn't like it was like the smoothest head kick. It was like it was a little labored, which is stupid to say about a power shot like that. But you know what I mean? It wasn't the smoothest of head kicks. It's not like Al Hassan is going to be known as this head kicking threat that everyone's terrified of. It's just the same old, we know this guy has legit fucking power. Doesn't matter what kind of limb he's using. I don't understand how if he didn't dip into it, I don't think it ever comes close enough. You know, if he doesn't dip into it, it might be hitting him in the shoulder or the ribs. Just
sometimes it's meant to be, man. Sometimes it's just meant to be.
Yeah, I feel good for Abdul Razak Al Hassan. You know, dude's been through the ringer, and I'm glad, you know, he's keeping his job for at least another paycheck. I hope he does well in middleweight. It's just it's an impossible fight for me to break down because I'm gutted for ADC. I don't understand how he allowed that to happen, and you know, we've really got not a lot to talk about in that fight.
Moving on, we got a lot to talk about this next one. Sam Alves, possibly his last fight in the UFC. Coming up, backs against the wall. He's lost a bunch of fights in a row. He's against Wellington Turman. He lost his last fight, desperate to turn it round. And for 2 rounds, Wellington Turman takes him down and wins the rounds. And Sam Alves doing is stand on the edge of the cage and kind of wait for the odd chance to hit a counter left, which is all he ever does. And then the 3rd round starts, and Sam Alves actually doing better. Thurman's kind of a bit tired. He takes his foot off the gas. But then the eye pokes happen, and he gets a point taken away, and then another point taken away. It's the first time I've ever seen a guy get 2 points taken away that quickly. All of a sudden, his clean sheet, easy finish is starting to look a risk. And so Wellington Turman swings like a wild man and just charges at Sam Alvey for the rest of the round. Definitely wins the 3rd round, wins the fight, but wins it 28-27 on 2 judges' scorecards. Split decision. It's Sam Alvey was furious, but to be honest, I think he still lost all 3 rounds. You can be as pissed off as you want. I know that you can argue that you landed some counter shots and all the rest, but the other guy outworked you. It's always the case with Alvey. He's gone. It's his time.
I think that's the anger of a man with 1,000 kids and half a paycheck. That's what that is.
Very true. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's Sam Alvey's last fight in the UFC.
What's the best way to handle this? I like some Sam Alvey fights. I hate all Sam Alvey post-fight speeches. I respect the man tremendously. In and out of the cage. I'm not going to be upset. You know, it's just we were in no way, shape, or form diminishing the middleweight division right now. Cutting Sam. It is what it is. PFL beckons.
PFL beckons.
I hope Bellator leave well enough alone.
Moving on, Darren Stewart had a bad night.
I don't think I'm emotionally ready to deal with this one right now, Matt.
We'll just say one more thing. Dustin Jacoby had a good night. Enough said.
Yeah, Jacoby looked all right, yeah.
JJ Aldridge looked all right.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I'm always a bit of an Aldridge fan, but she has to have the right opponent, you know?
Yeah.
Like she's got a ceiling on her, but if you match her up right, you're going to get a good fight.
Absolutely, very impressive. I think flyweight's a good division for her as well. Maybe a Gillian Robertson fight would be good. Don't know if they've already fought.
Let me look it up.
You look it up. Well, you're looking it up.
Your hangover slow.
While you're looking that up, we'll touch quickly on the next fight down. Jamal Ammers made a rookie error. You don't keep the toe hold when the other guy's got the heel hook.
It didn't make any sense. He was looking pretty good up until then.
He's looking really good up until then. But this is like the shit, man. Like, maybe it's just because we watch a lot of UFC, but like, I've just heard so many people say you don't maintain the toe hold when the other guy's got the heel hook. You hear it like every... Sorry, go.
I was gonna say, and you don't fucking turn against it. Oh, tore his own knee.
Yeah.
The look on Sabatini's face afterwards, like, what have I done? And it's like, I really don't know how much of it's your fault. One, if Sabatini's going to finish you anywhere, it's right there on the ground. You're already doing fantastic on the feet. Quit fucking around. It's just one of those things where you say it's a mental block. Somewhere deep down in your subconscious, you're not ready to be successful yet, and you need to fucking address that. And unfortunately, you're going to have lots of time to think on it because,
you know, his consequence to pay.
Yeah.
It's a
I
big
feel so bad for him. Such a good young fighter, and this is going to be a big fucking roadblock. I mean, I don't want to be overly optimistic and overreach or anything. I'm just saying, like, look, the kid's got some fucking time to reflect on this. You know, hopefully this is one of those things where the guy really puts himself through the adversity in the right way, takes it head on in the right way, and comes back, if not a lot stronger, at least just a little bit wiser, you know, because his knee's not going to be any stronger. This is, you know, it's the hurt game for a reason. This guy's just going to have to kind of fight through that for the rest of his life now, truth be told.
Sorry about the background noise. There's some absolute fucking arsehole outside of the suitcase. Rather than walk on the side of the pavement where it just glides along with no sound, decided to walk on the bumpy side of the pavement. So all you could hear is Jones sound like a fucking motor drill. Now
he's just excited to be traveling.
Now he's coming back.
I can't hear it, so I don't know how much of it's getting picked up. You might be all right there.
I can hear it. I can hear it, and that's enough, Josh. Yeah, and then Mana Martinez.
Yeah, Mana Martinez, Mana boy. This was a great fight to open the night.
Yeah, this was fun. 41 years old, Guidetti is that correct?
Yeah, Guido Canetti, 41. Mana Martinez, I believe, 25.
It looks all right for 41.
Yeah. Although I did think the way he was kind of just recklessly landing a lot of check shots, I wonder how bad his shin felt the next day.
Probably not.
Yeah, Mana Martinez, I was surprised because obviously he was supposed to be fighting a couple of weeks ago against Trevin Jones. Correct. 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago. So having your fight pushed back like that is going to fuck with your weight cut and your energy levels. And he's a big boy for bantamweight.
And then his coach dies.
Yeah. This was fucking impressive. I thought this was a great fight. Guido Canetti rolled back the years for sure. Mana Martinez died. I was surprised. I don't know. It was a close fight. I had it pretty clear for Mana Boy. But, you know, judges are what they are. Still, all that matters is he gets the win. Also, we had him in our picks, right? So we look smart. Gotta love that. How'd you do on the picks?
So let's see. I got six. 6 out of 12.
I think I got 7.
I got Muradov wrong. I got Kevin Lee wrong. I got Barbosa wrong. I got ADC wrong. I got Sam Alvey wrong. I got Jamal Emmers wrong.
Yeah, I went with Wellington Turman and Chikadze. That must have been the difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when Sly isn't fucking fluking it. With his
not our best showing,
analysis.
but it is what it is.
We've done worse.
Do you want a suggestion? Shall we do the news on the pick show this week?
Yeah, I mean, what has come up? I know our teammate Trevin Jones passed away. Tachi Palace fights fighter. Other than that, I really don't fucking. I haven't really seen anything come up apart from Jake Paul and Tattoo.
Well, there is actually news apparently, although I don't know how much you can really pay attention to this. According to The Sun, Jake Paul retires from boxing with a perfect record.
Oh yeah, I did see the headline that he's tweeted that he's retired. If I gave a fuck, I would probably take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got nothing in the news, man. You were talking about how it was rumored, but obviously Namajunas Whaley 2 confirmed.
Oh shit! Yeah, got announced.
And supposedly Chandler is doing the New York card. So let's see how that one pans out. It'd be a real shame to fuck that fight up just because they want to stubbornly book it somewhere he can't fight. Oh shit! And Frankie Edgar got a fight.
Oh yeah, Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes fight is going to be on UFC 269.
Frankie, the answer is taking on Cheeto, which I'm I'm pretty fucking jacked up for that. That's going to be a cool fight.
And interestingly enough, we were worried that maybe Sam Alves' last fight was going to be in the UFC. This is Dana White talking afterwards. He's one of those guys that's so tough, so durable, always fights his ass off, that always shows up and will take on anybody, anywhere. We love guys like that. We love guys that actually show up to fight.
I wonder how many of those kids are secretly Dana's.
Well, this is the weird thing about Dana. He can be an absolute cock. And then there's always like a few people that he seems to like fucking absolutely like, you know, go to the sword with. You know, you think like when Robert Whittaker had his issues and said he needed to take personal time because he's having a mental breakdown. Dana White almost burst into tears talking about what a great human being Robert is and how he needs to do what he needs to do, all this kind of shit. Right? You don't see him giving that love to fucking Stipe or some crap.
No, man. I mean, you know, fucking. I'm not saying Dana White doesn't do right by some people. It's just it doesn't outweigh all the bad he does and the way that he treats other people. You know, fucking Pedro Escobar reformed shanty towns. All right. Still don't think he got into heaven. Just saying, you know. There's lots of fucking examples you can bring up. I
love that you're comparing Dana White to Pablo Escobar.
I called him Pedro Escobar as well, mate. I'm so fucking hungover. I think we've got to wrap this shit up. I'm gonna die soon.
Don't worry, you're doing better than a lot of people in Kabul right now.
Yeah, fucking sly.
That's the show. We'll be back on Friday with the pick show. Everybody, have a great week until then. Bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Trufo.
Bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Wait, what's the other one? If we're gonna, if we're tacking them on, I've got to get it right. What's the dude's name?
Trefo.
Trefo. All right. Because we both of us are awful at getting names right. Like our pronunciations are not very good.
But we're not particularly good at this whole YouTube thing yet either. You know, we don't tell people to like and subscribe. You should, but we don't ask it.
Yeah.
We're not needy. We're not those kind of guys.
You know what? It's just not in me to beg for stuff like that. I just feel like if you like it, you should watch this. I think you're an idiot if you're not also watching lots of other podcasts as well. What we offer is a very insightful opinion that may lack some technical grounding, but frankly, is pretty much on the fucking money. Ignore our picks over the last couple of months. But, you know, go watch some other shit. Keep watching this too. I'll create a few fake accounts to like and subscribe. So you're off the hook for this week. I've got you covered. But you know, if you ever feel like liking and subscribing, we wouldn't hate you for it.
Well said. And on that note, have a good evening, everybody. Take care.